how does Farcaster and generally how does open social media impact the real world, even outside of just Web3? Well, in Web3, which is a general term to combine crypto, blockchain, and the general metaverse, whatever kind of connotation you want to give that. Well, there's a lot of talk in there on openness, on decentralization, on permissionlessness, whatever these terms mean to you. But generally, if you had a more open social media, how would that impact the world? And don't worry, we're not talking about code. This is nothing code. This is a meta social media discussion. So if you have ever just used whatever social media or generally know what it is, then you'll be totally fine. I do love to code, but we're not coding. We're not coding here. So Farcaster in general is just this really fun thing. But what is it? You may have heard of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, but you may not really know this Farcaster thing. So what really is it? Well, as you can see on the left, it just has posts, right? So there is my social media profile. In this case, this is my Farcaster profile rendered in an app called Webcast. Then next to it, you can see this concept of channels, which you can think of as subreddits if you do know them. If you're from Instagram, Twitter, you can think of them as hashtags, but these hashtags you can actually browse. So it's something where you're not just using a hashtag for distribution, you're actually using that hashtag to see posts, and there's a real community in that hashtag. It is not just the single, oh yeah, fun little weird hashtag thing. And then there's even more, which is the Courtyard J. Patrick example that you can see there with this vending machine, where notice how you have two buttons in there. This is still the social media app, right? So we do have a button in there. What can we do? We can interact with it. In this case, we could mint Pokemon cards. We could actually go and buy Pokemon cards without leaving the social media app. Wait, what? Yes. It's a little crazy. It is really, really cool. You could do even more. We played Doom just inside of the social media app by clicking fire or clicking left-right movement, right? And then you can also do actions based on it. We'll get into all of that. Generally, Farcaster itself is an underlying thing. So think of how roads is what we use to build networks on. Like, the road is used to build transport networks. The road is used to build your bus transport, so you can go from city A or place A to place B, city B, whatever, by bus. The bus network operates on roads. The train network operates on different underlying railways, and they're interconnected and whatever. Farcaster itself is an underlying protocol. It is an underlying railway. It is an underlying street network, so to say, and you can build whatever social media you want on top of it. While this looks way more like Reddit or Twitter, you may also build just an Instagram where you're showcasing only the big images, and then you have the text be smaller down below. So there's multiple ways of doing it. Generally, who's presenting is probably also interesting. I myself am born in Frankfurt, Germany, or close to it, in Hanau, not too long ago. And I'm mainly developing on top of Farcaster and building smart contracts in my own company called dTech. And I've studied computer science in Zurich. And this also scope of Web3 Fest, Zurich, wherever, for this talk. It's fun. Generally, my background has been in IT security, cloud engineering, and developing applications and all of that. So I'm way more technical on my background, but I've also ran a business for the last 5 years. So that's where I mostly come from. And Farcaster itself, well, as I've alluded to, is this underlying base that you can build social media on top of. And we'll see why this is really important, because it is important to capture the notion of the openness, allowing you and enabling you to do that. If you were to build a social network on top of Twitter, you would get all of the Twitter users that already have accounts, and they could easily try it because they just need to log in with Twitter. But once Twitter doesn't change to their API or how Twitter works, whatever, you're gone. And that doesn't really work. So if that works, if you're building something successful on top of Twitter, most likely what's going to happen is they will just build it and you're gone. So Farcaster enables you, or generally an open set of tools enables you as a developer to do way more there and have less business risk from an entrepreneurial standpoint. So Farcaster generally also is not just limited to that, but that's the general vision you need to have to go forward. Farcaster itself is crypto native in a sense, and when I say crypto native, I'm talking to, okay, well, there's a lot of people who already have wallets and there's a lot of people who don't have wallets. And if I'm saying crypto native, then okay, if you do have a wallet, there are certain experiences that you will find really, really cool, though this is not just a crypto thing. But it already impacts this whole world. Like the frame example where you could show and buy Pokemon cards, what I talked about in the beginning for a brief little while. This brings interactive apps to the feed. You may remember Farmville, which was in Facebook. So you didn't download an app. Back then you didn't download an app onto your phone and you played the game. You actually played it in Facebook, right? Crazy, right? Who remembers? And there's generally a lot of that. Like when I started out gaming, we played browser games. There was one web page and you played the game that was embedded there. And there were hundreds of games, thousands of games in there. And these general interactions have just fully vanished. Like now I'm using Twitter, Instagram, whatever, and I see a fun game, and then I go download it onto the App Store and have it in a different app. I do have to leave. So the effort required for me to try your game is really high because I need to leave the social media feed I was just browsing. So I need to fully interrupt my pattern. Here you don't. Because I'm already in there, I can just click around, have fun, and if it's cool, okay, yeah, then maybe you can get me out, or just let me in, let me stay inside the feed, right? There's been a bunch of media coverage on it because of the usage of the network has exploded because people really like this feature. But what it generally is you have 4 buttons. You could add an input field so you can get text input from people, and you have total freedom to do whatever based on just a link you share. So think of it kind of like a Game Boy where you have this restricted set of inputs that the user can do. You have a limited set of buttons. It isn't that powerful. It isn't that responsive because, well, for it to render in your social media app, it has to go to the developer server and then whatever. It isn't that responsive, but with that limited set on Game Boys, most people are so nostalgic and really love the Game Boy experience. Why? Because the developers got really creative and got really fun and built really fun applications on top of it. And that is the whole spiel. You can do really, really great things on it if you're getting creative. So that is one thing that is really cool in Farcaster that already impacts Web3. And if we're then looking at channels, there's a lot of communities that simply go under on Twitter or other feeds or Discord. Discord is just too crowded, and many people just don't go back into the Discord, which Discord is this community tool where you can have different rooms and you can chat, you can voice chat, you can text chat, and a lot of people have been using that for their Web3 community, and Farcaster is changing the game there in the sense that many are now setting up different kind of channels. Think of them as different hashtags, but you can actually browse them with a feed and different kind of things. So that Reddit style merge between Twitter and Reddit, so to say, has gotten a lot of use, and Nouns, which is a bigger Web3 community, is just starting to lean really, really heavy into that. And because it's open, they're now actually building their own application to make that browsing feel way more integrated with that community. And generally, if you already know how subreddits work, you will find channels really, really easy. If you don't, you will likely just experiment with it and be able to get it. If we look at channels today aren't that widely spread. There's like 1,000, 2,000 channels. Reddit's subreddits in 2008 were 10,000. We're now at 1.2 million. So there's a lot of growth in just really niche communities and some bigger ones and different kinds of communities coming together and having their own space. Well, some will be more active, some will be less active, but that's just one fun way to see how that all could go. And then you have these actions, right? And the actions are really, really cool. Think of it, if you're on Twitter and you want to save and bookmark something, well, yeah, you can bookmark it. On Instagram, you can bookmark it, but then it goes into your app's bookmarks, which you never really access again. If you want it in your Apple Notes or in your Readwise or in Notion, in your bookmarking app, you would have to share, copy link, then go over and have it in there. On Farcaster, you can just tap this little button there on the screen. Then this little pop-up comes out that I've highlighted in big right next to it, and then you can just click on any of those actions. So if there's a bookmark action that you program and or somebody else has built for you that just saves it to your Apple Notes, to your Notion, whatever you need, this is really cool. And you can do way more with it because the whole context that this gets is the full social media post. So say somebody is posting about some stock and you want to know, okay, what is the price of the stock? They mention what's the historical chart, give me some background data on the company so you can evaluate if it's true or not what they're saying. You could have a button where it says stock checker, and based on the text it says and having the symbol, it looks it up, it gives you the information and it presents it to you. So that is one way you could leverage it. Another way you could leverage it is just, okay, this is a really cool post, let me save it, like we said before with the bookmarks. Another really cool one is you can buy somebody a coffee, because in Farcaster everyone has a wallet. So you already know the crypto address where you can do an easy payment to them. So if you think this post is really cool, I want to pay this guy, click on it, do a second click. Now this frame that we've talked about earlier, right? Like this thing comes back up, and then you have those, like the one button or an input field could be like, okay, enter the dollar amount, usually like, oh, $5. I input $5, I click approve, and then it just sends it out, or I need to do a transaction, whatever. You can fiddle around with the UI, but that's the general spiel. Another thing you can do with actions is, okay, now I'm seeing the social media post, and we're living in a world that becomes more and more enriched with artificial intelligence. You can do truth checks and be like, okay, have the AI search and truth check, do whatever. Or you could do even more. There's more fun stuff you can do. You can get really, really, really creative, because all you get is the information who posted it. You get the post, the actual text, and you can then do whatever you want with it, and that is really powerful. And Farcaster itself, I've alluded to it in the beginning that it is open, and that this is the game change. And I've also alluded to Farcaster being more in this Web3 thing, but what do I mean? Well, identities on Farcaster, like your name, is managed through a blockchain. And the only thing Farcaster uses a blockchain for is, well, yeah, one, payments. Second, it uses it for the name registration. So your username lives on a blockchain. So if there was no Farcaster tomorrow, for whatever reason, as long as the blockchain stayed alive, you would still own your username. And if you run a hub, which think of it as nodes if you're already familiar with blockchain, or generally if you're not, then think of it as like a bunch of users or companies all run data and store all of the data that is in this social network, for the single reason that some of them are API providers, and that way they can serve the customer better. Others are companies that deal with that data, so they can serve their customer better, and they have less risk to an external dependency if they store it themselves. And you can, right? So you can actually do that. You can also access it. You can also post through it. So you can run your own little server or your own little thing as a developer, and you can post to it, and this will never go away. So you can't really be censored there. You will not be denied access to the network. You can always just spin up your own computer, run the latest software, and post. And this is just, as long as you have access to a computer, that is the price you pay to get access. And there will be API providers, and there already are, to make that a lot easier for you. And that way, you do not have to deal with a Twitter or Reddit where they change their APIs and then you're totally screwed. So this is like how it changes the game for social media, and it falls right in line with Web3. And how that impacts the wider world is that, well, as a developer, if I built anything on social beforehand, I've already gotten screwed by Twitter. I've gotten screwed by Facebook, like Zynga, which built Farmwell, and a bunch of apps just got booted off, and they're their own game studio, and they now built mobile apps. And, well, they were in Facebook. They were totally embedded. Facebook used it. Like, a lot of people just spent time on Facebook because of Farmwell. So it was really a good thing, actually. But then they just tore it up, and Zynga couldn't do anything because it's Facebook's platform. Twitter banned a lot of apps because now they charge for the APIs. And as a developer, I cannot afford to pay for the APIs if I do not really charge my user. It was a fun side project before, now that's gone, and you created this whole subculture and you made this whole app really, really useful. Well, now that is dead. Same with Reddit, that altered their API, and that will not work with Farcaster, because what I've just explained is you will be able to have access to it as long as you run some simple piece of code. And this is generally also the same with blockchains, and that's why it fits so well, and why this is a game changer, because look at all of those apps on the screen in front of you that just basically dead, unless they want to pay $40,000 a month for Twitter API, and they're not getting that from their users, so they're dead. On Farcaster, they just have to pay either $10, $50 to an API provider, or just run some software. So that is really cool. Another feature is, because as you can see, we can host the data ourselves, so we own this data. We can just run it in our own warehouse, in our own cloud, in our own private computing, at our home, basically. What we can also do is we can run analysis on top of it. So living in an AI world, we can run AI on top of that data, and because the data is already open, there is no GDPR or data privacy concern, because the data is already open. Like, I'm just doing stuff on open data, so the user published that data anyway. It's not that I need to get user consent for it. So if I now use Farcaster, instead of sign in with Google, sign in with Twitter, sign in with whatever, I use sign in with Farcaster. Now I already know, say I'm Amazon and I'm looking at my e-commerce homepage, and I log you in through that, then I already know that, oh, you're following the Philadelphia Eagles, which is an NFL channel, and you're a lot of developer channels. So I'm not going to recommend you to Zeus. I'm going to recommend you use B-Sticks, computer parts, and Philadelphia Eagles football merch and sports gear. So now they already know me quite well, just from knowing my social media tendencies, and that is all open. They do not need to have permission or whatever. So that's really cool, and I get a better experience on data that is already out there publicly. And as a company, you get way more conversion, because you can show me actual stuff that is interesting to me without any of the privacy concerns that exist today. So that is really cool. An open system takes worries from developers and companies, right? So we have discussed Farcaster being this open system where you can run your own code and you can build whatever you want on top of it. Like, you can use the underlying roads to build public transport, to build private transport, to just go from place A to place B, to drive your car, to do whatever you want to do. You can just walk them. Like, Farcaster is a underlying protocol, and there will be many types of social media built on top of it. And this open system only works because it is open. Because you will have control over your data. You can have that. You will have permission. You cannot be charged insane amounts of money from today or tomorrow. The usage permissions will not change from today or tomorrow. If the company that is currently mainly driving the development ecosystem around it dies tomorrow, the code is already out publicly and there's a bunch of people running all of that code. So it would not die, even if they went away. And this is the cool thing about it, and this is why this is so great. So Farcaster enables you to just do. Thank you. If you have any questions around Farcaster, how to leverage Farcaster or whatever, we're the leading Farcaster consulting agency and also implementation. So if you do not have the developers on hand, we can also just do the full implementation and go from idea to product to actually delivering it all in-house from us. Or if you do have the development experience and you just need to get started, or you just generally want to talk, feel free to reach out there, scan the QR code, go to dTech Division, whatever. If you have any questions for me personally, my LinkedIn and Webcast are at the bottom there too. Do not hesitate to reach out and comment and share feedback. Thank you.